details.
Okay.
But again, I'm just looking at how much does it cost.
Later. Okay. Okay.
Right. Pay a little bit, whereas they get covered.
The meeting started. Got it.
Elections are coming up if you want to run. Just saying.
No.
Okay, the meeting is called to order at 3:04 p.m. And we will start with our land acknowledgement. And I did not bring my glasses. Can't believe I. It's fine. Before we begin, we believe it's important to open our meeting by acknowledging the indigenous land that we share. Pasadena City College is a learning community within the indigenous homelands of the people who have been known as the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians of the Shishiaquanga and Shishiaquanga Village and Quiche Nation. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this land on which we gather. We honor all indigenous people past, present, and future, and their continued survival and contributions to our society. We also honor the legacy of the African diaspora and recognize that this country would not exist without the free enslaved labor of Black people. We share these acknowledgments to raise awareness about histories that are too often erased or forgotten, to recognize our place in this history, and to affirm our commitment to social justice, systemic change, and anti-racism. Thank you. Okay, do we have any public comment? No public comment. Oh. Yeah, no public comment. And so let's move on. Next, I am looking for a motion to approve our minutes. We have a motion to, Lyman, motion to approve. Maggie, sorry. Second, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Seeing none, we can approve this by unanimous consent, or if everyone says aye. Aye. Any objections? Hearing none, minutes are approved. I'm gonna try something a little different, just mix it up a little bit. Okay. So constituency reports, PCCFA.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Great to see everyone. We have continued to negotiate with the district for the next contract. I think we had a pretty productive negotiation session last week, Thursday. Some of the good news from the adjunct faculty side is that we finally have a healthcare proposal on the table for adjunct faculty. Those of you who know how long it's taken us for us to get at least a proposal, so it's quite an achievement, I believe. We are trying to work out the details, obviously, which will be presented in the future, and we are trying to make it as affordable for adjunct faculty in terms of how much they pay for the plan per month. I encourage faculty to review the negotiations update that was sent out today from the FA that has a lot more detailed information in relation to other articles that are being discussed and negotiated as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Classified Senate. Do we have a rep from the Classified Senate?
AJ sent his friends.
Okay, thank you. Associated students. You're gonna get out of here early, hopefully. So no associated
Don't jinx
students.
it.
Oh, look, nobody said anything. Really? I thought you guys were friends. They were right here. Oh. Okay, now I can see. Okay, Management Association. Okay, now we can move forward. I'll make mine quick as well. What are we at? Officers' reports. For me, President's report, we're in conversations with the district, and what they wanted us to pass on to our constituency is that when you sign up for campus events or activities, like you RSVP for something, if you don't show up, it costs the district money, regardless if you show up or not. So I just am encouraging everyone to go back to your departments and tell them that if they sign up for something, they really should go. Otherwise, don't sign up, because then it won't be an expense on the college, because it's happening more frequently than we want it. And yeah, we want to try and curb that. We don't want people to say it was the faculty. I'm not saying that it was. Events like conferences, or if you sign up for speakers, EEO training, whatever. I don't know about EEO training, but whatever, it costs the college money whether you're there or not, because they pay for your seat, your lunch, whatever. So please come when you sign up. If you can't come, just call whoever's in charge and let them know you won't be there. Okay, that's all that I have. Is there a vice president's report?
Yes. There are some vacancies on some of the standing committees, subcommittees under College Council, and you guys will be hearing about that pretty soon. We're still waiting for rosters, but we will be putting those out there. If you are interested on serving on one of those committees, let us know. And the vacancies are easy to see on the website, but we're still trying to get an accurate roster from people, so.
I also want to just encourage folks to get on these standing committees outside of the academic senate as well, because we need faculty voices there too. And yeah, I'm gonna leave that here. Okay, secretary's report. Hi, Lena.
Hi. On behalf of Dr. Carrie Boland from the Division of Institutional Equity, Diversity, and Justice, the PCC community is invited to a series of distinguished guest speakers in honor of Black History Month. The first guest, Dr. Chike Akwa, will speak in a faculty-focused space this Wednesday, February 8th at 3 p.m. in the Circadian. Please spread the word to your colleagues, and I'll be sure to send a reminder email.
Is that the end of your report?
Yes.
Awesome. Treasurer's report?
I apologize, I didn't have time to check the balances before the meeting, so I will have those at the next one.
If you hadn't forgotten, we are shorthanded, but I believe today, we had interviews on Friday for a replacement for Judy. I believe we'll have someone today. This was the final interview, and I will report out. Hopefully we'll have somebody functioning by our next meeting, so fingers crossed. Yes, Lyman?
Sorry, can I get the spelling of that individual giving?
Chike Akwa? Yes, it's.
Common spell.
It's C-H-I-K-E is the first name, and the last name is A-K-U-A, and I'll be sure to send a reminder email as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions for the executive committee? Great. We do have quorum, right?
How many do we?
I think we do have quorum, okay. Next, we have an information item from Student Services, Dr. Miriam Alchunji.
I was near the outlet. All right. All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Thank you for giving us some space in Student Services to come update you on some stuff. Sorry I wasn't here last meeting. Some spring kickoff shout outs. This was supposed to happen at the last meeting, but I want to thank everybody who's been helping our students through the start of the spring term. It was amazing to just see everybody rally around the beginning of the term. Particularly around fraud. So I'll be talking about that in a little bit. So some of the enrollment strategies that we utilized this time around was really to focus on students completing the fall and registering on time for spring. We did end up seeing some lag in our student registrations, and it always sort of picks up as we get closer to the deadline of the start of term. But these are just some of the strategies that were employed. Counselors, coaches, hourly, full-time staff, it was really like all hands on deck for this. Our admissions and records and financial aid office folks, our programs, everybody was on it to help our students register for the spring. So I've been sort of the collector of all the fraudulent student reports that have been coming in. So if you have, it's a team of us, but I've been managing a lot of the requests that come through our ticketing system. Announcements had gone out to all of you at the beginning, like before the semester began. So super appreciative to anyone who did utilize the forms because it helped me keep track of all of the potential cases. We've been using several tools to try to identify as best we can ahead of time, but once the semester begins, it's sort of on our faculty colleagues to make sure to report these to us. So any students or bots that were reported were investigated. We put holds on the ones that we saw that were leaning towards fraudulent. Those students got an email that says a hold has been placed on your record. They are not able to register until that hold is removed. And what we ask from them is to submit forms of identification that are verifiable so that then we clear their holds and identify them as a real person. So far, we haven't had a lot of students that have come back and said, no, I'm real. But the ones that have, a huge shout out to our admissions and records staff because they're managing all the ones that are coming in, as well as financial aid because they're doing the same thing on their end. And if you have any, I don't know, can I pause? Can I do questions if people have some, or should I wait till the end? I'll wait till the end. If you have any questions, my email's right there, Miriam Altunji. Feel free to email me with anything. Normally, if you have a potential fraudulent student, go through the ticketing system. It really is much easier, and I'll send out the link again if you don't have it. Completion. We're coming into spring. Spring term is our big commencement and completion term. A lot of our students have filed for ADT verifications with their applications to transfer. So these are just a few numbers from leading up to now.
Can you spell out what ADT is?
Associate degree for transfer. So those are the associate's degrees that we have in partnership with the Cal State universities, thank you, that allow for a little bit of a smoother transition for our students who are transferring to CSU. So we're gathering a list of all the students who've petitioned, we're auto-awarding and so on, and at this point we're really just like ramping up to help students finish off their last semesters if that's where they're at. We've been auto-awarding AAs, ADTs, as well as certificates, and so there's a huge staff involved in order to make that all happen, so this is what we spend our springs doing. So if you have students, if you're teaching, I mean, I'm sure you all have students, but if you're in front of a student, if they're in their last semester, please remind them there is a deadline of March 17th for them to order their caps and gowns. If they don't have a cap and gown, they cannot participate in commencement. So if they do want to participate in commencement, deadline to petition for graduation is March 13th. The deadline to buy their cap and gown is March 17th, and it's all on the commencement website. And there's our commencement website. You can't click on it, it's just a picture. For engagement and retention, once census hit, we started raising drop flags for students in PCC Connect. From there, our success coaches have been reaching out to students who have dropped or been dropped from classes to see if there's any additional assistance that we can help them with to keep them on track for their educational goals. So there is very intentional outreach happening to students who are getting these drop flags. Tonight, I wanted to announce it to you here first before we launch our progress surveys. We haven't done progress surveys in PCC Connect for a few semesters. During the pandemic, it was really complicated to do that, as well as all the other things that we had going on. And so we sort of have a revamp. Dr. Sheila Rose is now our faculty lead for PCC Connect on the instructional side, and is going to be the liaison between student services and instruction to help make this a meaningful tool for all of us so that we can all partner up to help our students together. So please sorry.
Okay, Jeff,
Extend by 5 minutes.
would like to make a motion? Okay. Second, Carmen, are there any objections to extending this item by 5 minutes? Oh, is that an objection?
No.
I don't know if it was one of these. Okay. Seeing no objections, You have another 5 minutes.
Thank you, thank you. So the progress survey will go out tonight to you all. It'll come to your email for every section that you have. We're giving you a space to reflect on any services that your students might need at this time in the semester. You will see a list of referrals, and I have them listed here. Lancer Care Center, Counseling and Success Coaching, Tutoring, the Career Center, and the Writing Support Center. So if you feel like your students can benefit from any of these, please do refer them using the tool. We'll be prepared to onboard the students through that process to get them connected with the services. We're also working on redesigning our whole guided entry process. The conversations are happening around what we currently call online orientation, becoming more meaningful and responsive to our students' onboarding process to make it a more customized process for them. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're really trying to think about how we're onboarding our students. Registration dates. Schedule of classes for summer comes out February 20th. The registration actually kicks off on March 20th. We have about a month to help our students think about summer and then actually register for summer. And then April 3rd is the fall schedule of classes will go live, and May 22nd, the registration. Lancer Care is also doing gift cards for grocery, gas, and Uber. And students can request a gift card by raising their hand in PCC Connect. So we're really trying to leverage this tool to connect students to all of the services that we have at the college. And then please do celebrate our Black Heritage Month. You had a question?
I did have a question. I'm
No.
sorry.
And
Yay
then-
for Black Heritage Month.
Yes,
but
I
that's
thought
not
you
what
were
I-
cheering.
Is it a one-time thing if they want a gas card and all
There
that?
is a time between which students can, they have, I think it's a week or two. I'll
Okay.
find out though.
Thank you.
And we inform the students when they apply for it. That's it for me.
Yay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Dr. Altucci? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have an update from instruction. Laura Ramirez is not here today, but Stephanie Klein is. Thank you, Stephanie, for being here. And once you get up here, you have the floor.
Hi all. Just a few quick updates from Dr. Ramirez. First of all, I want to thank everyone for some of the events that you all have supported. First of all, we had the STEM Gala last week. We had somewhere between 150 200 students, and then we had a whole bunch of industry experts and companies come out and talk with the students, and there were a lot of faculty and staff there. And so for all of you who supported that event and participated, I want to thank you. The CEC is having a resource fair on February 22nd, and this is a way for families to connect with the center, with our programs, and for us to identify ways to support the students in all of those programs. Let's see. I also want to thank Dr. Rose for partnering with the Success Centers. It's just another way that instruction and student services is connecting to help serve students. We'll be trying to incorporate PCC Connect in a more meaningful way in the Success Centers, and to also let more students know about the resources that are there. I also want to thank Jose Castanon for helping add more hours to the Math Success Center, so that we have additional ways that we're supporting students outside the traditional hours that the Success Centers are open. So thank you very much for that as well. And as promised, I asked Dr. Ramirez to provide an updated list of the faculty numbers that I went over last time when I was here. So I'm just going to share that right now. So these are the numbers for full-time and part-time. And I will share this with Dr. Lopez afterwards so she can send this out. I'll also attach the flyer for the CEC's resource fair as well. So the specific things that you all brought up when you were in here, a couple of the divisions hadn't been merged. So that's Vic's counseling is on here. The Success Center faculty, the non-instructional Success Center faculty are in their represented disciplines. So 2 from English are in English and the 2 from math are in math.
Could you tell me cumulatively what's the ratio, the percentage between full-time and part-time on the numbers? It used to be 432.
I'm sorry, you're out of order,
Oh,
Nancy.
sorry.
That's okay. Do any senators have any questions on this information item? Okay, I saw Danielle first and then Carmen.
I actually have a question about the resource fair. Do you happen to know who is the contact for that? Because I saw that come out through the website and it said APITA. And I reached out to someone who I know is affiliated with our PCC APITA and they said they weren't putting it on. So I called CEC and I couldn't get anyone on the phone. We're trying to see if maybe the library could participate and have some representation there.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking to see. For some reason, the flyer won't open, but I will, hold on, resource fair, read on. It's in, let's see. So you need to know specifically who the contact person is or who's running
Because
it?
I wouldn't want to just show up with our stuff and then we're not welcome.
Dean, well, I'm sure you are. Dean
I
Suarez.
wouldn't get turned away, but just in case, I'd like to be on the official invite.
Reach out to Dean Suarez, and if
Suarez,
yeah,
okay.
and if you have any trouble getting a response or whatever, just reach out to me, and I'll connect you directly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Carmen?
So for the numbers that we have presented here, is there any other divisions included in counseling, or is that only counseling?
It'll just be counselors. So if they're identified as a counselor, they're all in that category. And I specifically asked Dr. Ramirez, like DSPS or career counselors. She said that they're all there under counseling.
Awesome. And then the student, let's see, it goes over there. Sometimes it's called special services, sometimes it's called student success division, which includes like our veterans and our personal counseling office and the other office. Where's that at?
If they're counselors, then they're all under the counseling.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, I'm not talking about the counselor. So like, let's say they're a teacher specialist or in other job title positions, which are still faculty.
Do we have faculty? I'm trying to think of who. If you send me an email with the names, who, Sheila?
Ricardo Castillo.
They are counselors. They're identified as counselors. They're hired as counselors and then assigned over as the teacher specialist in DSPS.
Are there any other questions
I
for?
did, Gina.
Let me confer with my parliamentarian. No. Unfortunately, I was been advised that you cannot ask a question because you're not a senator during this time.
Yes, I'm an alternate from the non-credit.
But is non-credit fully here?
Yes, but my question.
How about this? Why don't you talk to your non-credit person and let them ask for you?
You can email me later.
Or you can email them. I'm
You can
sorry.
email me later.
I would love for you to say something, but this is outside of my control. Okay, Bevel.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask,
Well, actually, we need a motion to extend it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We need a motion to extend. Jose?
I'll make a motion for 5 minutes.
Okay, second is Danielle. Do I have any objections? Seeing none, there's an additional 5 minutes, and I saw Bevel's hand.
yeah, I was wondering if there's ever been any analysis of the amount of adjuncts within a certain department, and does that prevent faculty who are high on the seniority list from getting a certain amount of courses? Because it seems like, obviously the more you hire, you affect the pool, right? Has there been any discussion about adjunct faculty hiring? And would a focus group be something that you may be interested in?
Okay, so this is a side, I'm going to answer that question from my knowledge. So in the full-time faculty applications, we've always asked for an analysis of the breakdown between the percentage of full-time and part-time, right? And how that best serves the needs. So if the faculty in the discipline are making a case that they don't have enough full-time faculty, they'll use that as analysis in the Faculty Hiring Priorities Committee application, right? I think that the ratio between full-time and part-time in an area tends to be used to support the need to hire more full-time faculty. I personally have never seen any sort of investigation into, actually that's not true. There are some areas where we do, especially in CTE programs, where we want to have industry expertise, where you want people who are working within the, they're actually working in the field. So I know that there is some work in those areas to prioritize hiring adjuncts, but I don't think it's been a wide-scale conversation. I think mostly it's to analyze how many full-time faculty members we need there, and then we hire the part-time based on need after that to meet student. Does that answer your question, Bevel? Is that what you're? We can have. I know. We're. And in terms of the Article 18, the seniority list, that's a whole nother conversation, right? It depends on what your priority is. Is your priority to have a robust part-time pool where you have as many part-timers as you can, or is the philosophy to give a few part-timers as many classes as you can give them before? I mean, we've been having that conversation, right? So it depends on the approach that as an institution we decide to take.
Okay, I also want to let the Senate know, I got you, Melissa. I wanted to let the Senate know that we will be requesting the names of faculty members, and so that we can make sure that everyone is where they're supposed to be. So, for representation reasons. So I just want to put that out there for you. And Melissa, you have the floor.
And just to, give me just a second, I'm sorry, and just to respond to Dr. Lopez, I also passed that along to.
Thank you. Thank you.
To Dr. Ramirez, that those were requested.
I had a question about the full-time faculty and how many in each department have reassigned time, because, and what the percentages are. We might need that at your next visit, because that affects, what I'm hearing, that's going to affect the election and voting. Yeah. So when can we get the number of faculty that are not teaching?
So the request that was in here last time was the names of the faculty. The amount of reassigned time wasn't requested. I can pass that along by all means.
Because what I'm hearing from the chair is that we need that for voting purposes for the Senate. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Oh, one more thing. I'm so sorry, I forgot. We also we have instructional equipment money and lottery funds. This is the time of the year where the deans work with the faculty to identify those needs, and we've been prioritizing that. And PCC's use of lottery funds in the classroom was just highlighted in an NBC special, and so I'll also send out that link. I wanted to watch it before I shared it, so I'm going to watch it first and then I'll share it. But I just wanted to let you all know that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, before we move forward in our information items, I've been advised by a parliamentarian that I can, without a vote, have our student representative give her report. So we're just going to reorder some of the agenda. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to report a few events that are coming up on behalf of Associated Students. On February 21st, we're going to have a resume review and headshot event at the Mirror Pools. And then on February 14th, we're going to have a self-love event hosted by Campus Activities. And then our president, Emmanuel, wanted to report that Associated students are still reviewing calendar drafts for 2025-2026 school year, and we're a little bit confused on where that process is heading. But as of right now, that is all I'd like to report. Thank you.
I have a question with, what's the time of some of those events? What's the self-love?
So the resume review is from 12 to 1 p.m. And the self-love, I am not sure, but I will get back to you on that.
Do you have a date, a place, excuse me, for the resume?
For the resume review, it's at the Mirror Pools.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Melissa?
I was wondering if the associate students is discussing, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this, I couldn't hear very well, but I was wondering if you're discussing, I know there was a discussion about masks in the classroom. What about the vaccine? I know it has to be a double, or the full vaccine, COVID vaccine before they can take classes at PCC. I'm wondering if that's going to be adjusted at all. If they could take, I know there's only allowed to take classes online at the moment.
I don't know that that's information that she would have.
I was wondering if you're going to be discussing that soon?
We haven't discussed vaccine mandates. We were only discussing masking mandates because Candace Jones came to us and wanted to know how we felt about keeping the mask mandate or removing it. But so far, as of vaccines, we haven't had a discussion on that yet.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our student rep? And I'm sorry, I can't see your name.
Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah. I knew that, but never mind. Everybody else can see it. I'm the only one that can't. My bad. Anyway, so thank you so much for that, and we will go back to our agenda. And we have a information item about AP 220 by Dr. Sheila Rose and Dr. Miriam Altunji. You have the floor.
While Miriam pulls it up, Miriam and I are members of a subgroup of the Student Success Committee, which looks at all of our student-facing administrative procedures and board policies. So whenever any changes come through, we want to make sure that we bring them to the Senate, even if we don't have to vote on those policies and procedures. So there has been updated Title V language. So Title V is really the interpretation of Ed Code for community colleges. And so when there are changes to Title V, it often affects our processes as a college. So previously, for pass, no pass grading, which means basically if a student earns an A, B, or C, they can convert that to a pass. If their grade ends up being a D, F, W, am I missing anything?
Just DF. Yeah.
Just
DF.
Okay, DF, sorry. If it is a D or an F, then that is converted to a no pass. It does not affect their grade point average. Previously, as you can see, students had to petition to elect this choice before 30% of the instructional term that they were enrolled in the course had been completed. With the new Title V language, the deadline is now the last day of instruction. So students have to the very end of the instructional term to make the pass, no pass choice. Okay, so a pretty significant change.
This was just to clarify, some of the rationale that they looked at was during the pandemic, we allowed this to happen, right? We had a lot of flexibility with the pass, no pass process. And so what they were seeing is that students stayed in their classes a little bit longer to try. This is just like a snippet of the rationale, and I'm happy to share what was given out by the Chancellor's office about it. But so that's one of the reasons why they made this shift.
Okay, I actually, are you ready for questions?
Sure.
I think we can.
Yeah.
Okay, I have Lyman first, then Jeff, then Jose.
More of an observation question, but I think this is good. In math, we have a lot of, especially in our higher end classes, students who get so freaked out over the concept of not getting a perfect grade that they drop at the last minute, and which is very annoying, just because it doesn't do society any good. So I think this will hopefully increase our retention rate. So it's good. Possibly positive from COVID.
Okay, Jeff? I think it's so sorry.
So I agree, I think it's good. Just want to point out that there are sort of regulations around how many pass, no pass
Yes.
grading students can elect. You were going to get there? Okay.
Yeah, you can though if you
I'll
want.
wait. And then they should ask counselors if it's a good idea or not. Sometimes they need a grade,
Yeah.
not a non-grade.
Since that's one of the things, but if we're talking about it now, I would say, so we want to be mindful if a student does talk to you about pass, no pass, that they should talk to a counselor before making an official decision because it can impact their eligibility to transfer into certain majors because majors courses may require a letter grade. Awesome, Jeff.
Jose?
Yeah, I was gonna ask how many times, because I can see this being used a lot. And also, just to clarify, you said the last day was the end of the semester or the class?
No, it's the last day of instruction.
Instruction.
And so the way we're interpreting it is if they're in an 8-week course, then the last day of teaching that 8-week course would be the deadline, rather than if it was the first 8 weeks, they wouldn't have till the end of the semester to make the change.
Okay, so if a class meets, let's say Monday, Wednesday, the week before finals, that Wednesday's the last time.
If it's the 16-week term and there's finals, because the short-term courses don't have a finals week, right? So the last day of instruction is probably their final
The
day.
final day.
Yeah. So yes, last day
The last day
of
we
published instruction,
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Danielle and then Catherine.
If somebody declares pass, no pass, like towards the end of the term, will Lancer Point update their grading option? Or, because I'm just wondering like what the notification would be, because before we had plenty of time to know, and it would just be very obvious what their options were for grading.
Yeah, so this is going to be a lift on the admissions and records staff. The later a student elects to do that, if you've already submitted your grades, it will have to be manually updated through the petition will be, if it's processed after the fact, after the grades have already been submitted or whatever. Yeah, so it will be manually updated. It's not optimal, but I know what you mean. So sometimes you won't see Lancer Point grade as a pass, no pass option if we didn't get to it in time to change the modality.
Okay, we need to extend this. This is our last extension. Jose, I saw your hand first. Do I have a second? Carmen is a second. Are there any objections to extend this by 5 minutes? Seeing none, we'll approve by unanimous consent. So I had other questions. I saw Catherine first, and who else had a question? And then Sharice.
Yes, so just to clarify, you said that whether they choose pass or no pass, it will not affect the GPA?
Right.
Okay. The other question is, in non-credit, we've had pass, no pass for most of our classes for a while, but now we have transitioned to sufficient progress, and what's the other one? It's like, so it's something else where the no pass has been substituted by sufficient progress, which isn't really the case, because if somebody's failing the class, that is not sufficient progress. So is there anything about non-credit on there?
I think Sharon might be offering a resource.
Is this, are you responding to this? Yes, go ahead.
So we did update AP 4220 to include the satisfactory progress option for non-credit. This legislation is referring to credit courses, not non-credit courses.
But you don't foresee the credit courses doing that in the future, because that's very, I hope not. I just want to say that because it's been difficult in non-credit giving someone satisfactory progress when they don't even come to class, or they come once and they do nothing. So I just wanted to put that up. Thank you.
Okay, Sharice?
2 points here. So my understanding was when a student petitions for pass, no pass, the instructor doesn't know, and the instructor submits whatever letter grade they earn, and then on the back end, it's changed. So I think with your question about if you would see pass, no pass, it shouldn't show on the grading side for an instructor anyway, right?
If a student elects a pass, no pass in time before the grade books are out, you would only have the option for pass, no pass.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thanks for clarifying. And then the other point I also wanted to point out is that not every class qualifies for pass, no
Correct,
pass.
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Check this out. So in the course outline of record, it needs to be identified as a possible grading mode at the time that you put your courses through curriculum. If a course does not have a pass no pass as a grade mode option, the student cannot request pass no pass. So it's not a blanket, every course gets pass no pass as an option. So if a student is asking you and you're not sure whether your course is pass no pass eligible, you can look on the schedule of classes or on the course outline of records or in the catalog. It's all available for you there.
So just to clarify, if pass no pass is an option, you'll see this P at the end of the grade mode in the schedule of classes. If it's not, you'll just have the L for letter grade, the A for audit.
So we have had some students submit the pass no pass petition this semester for courses that don't qualify, and our A&R staff have been informing them that course is not eligible.
Okay, I had Susan and then Melissa.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about advisement, because I've had students who have informed me that they've switched their grade to pass, no pass, and for mine. There are consequences for some of them, at which point it's too late for me to advise them that wasn't a good idea. So is there any sort of requirement for advisement before they commit to this? Okay.
Yeah, there's no requirement, but I'll be working on figuring out if the form could, like nudge them in the direction of understanding what they're doing a little bit more, and then giving them the option of potentially maybe doing online counseling. It could be a quick thing, and then we can refer them to, if it's a deeper conversation, to whoever. If you're in front of a student right now, please shuffle them in our direction in counseling. If not, then we right now don't have anything in place at the moment, but we're working on it.
And definitely if you're teaching a course that could potentially be a major course, then very early in the semester, kind of introduce this concept to all of your students would be very helpful.
Okay, next we have Melissa.
I was wondering if there's any updated language in Title V that's related to PARS, what's it called? Positive attendance reporting system. Is that anywhere that we can read, at least for PCC policy or Title V? And does that ever get updated?
We're really just here to talk about the pass no pass option. Title V is thousands of pages, so I wouldn't know about positive attendance at this time.
Is there someone directly?
I think that would be the Office of Instruction.
PARS is our own internal system for reporting positive attendance. There are rules in Title V about recording positive attendance hours. And so I can add that to the list of things to do on the next instruction update if you'd like.
Or should I email you, or?
You can, or if other people are interested, I think it's always helpful.
And I was wrong. We still have one more extension available. So I'm looking for a motion. Jose, motion to extend 5 minutes? Awesome. Margaret, I saw your hand as a second. Are there, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. 5 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, and it's Jose's turn.
So, when is the expected date on this being effective? Is it next year? Now? Okay, good. That way we can, start to.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Surprise. Okay, are there any other questions for these two amazing women? Jeff?
Also, if you're not satisfied with the way your grade mode is listed for your class, you can update through your curriculum process when you update your course. So if you find that your course doesn't have the option, it means that it was left out when the last review was done. So you can update that. If you want to look at your courses and see if they have the correct grade mode that you're satisfied with, check it out.
Nice to see an eye club.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and I also have here as an information item, nominations and elections committee calendar. That needs to be moved. I talked to our parliamentarian, we can do this without a vote as well, but that's something that needs to be voted on, so it will be moved to new business. so we won't be hearing that right now. But we do have a parliamentarian update, and that is our parliamentarian. I muted it. Do you want to go?
I was like, no, she didn't.
While he's doing that, I'll break the silence. Opening ceremony for Black History Month will happen tomorrow. I encourage everyone to come out to the mirror pools so that help us celebrate Black History Month. Also, the UGM Black Academia program have a display set up in the library to celebrate Black excellence. So please stop by the library. Please come to the mirror pools to celebrate with us. Maybe dance a little bit. You don't, have to really know how to dance, but just follow along. It'll be fun.
And what time will that be at the mirror pool tomorrow?
The mirror pools, thank you so much. The mirror pools will be at 12 o'clock tomorrow during the college hour.
And what else?
Oh, and I would encourage everyone to look at the the Black History Month calendar that's on the landing page. Several different events that the campus has put together to, again, celebrate Black history and Blackness. And, can I talk about the calendar? And Dr. Rose has something she wanted to add.
Well, I just wanted to point out, because it's easy to miss, that the black bar at the very top of the website, that little square grid, is the kind of calendar of events. And so please do show your students this feature, because we have so many exciting events right here. So if you click on Black Heritage Month and then click on the link, it'll have the full schedule for the month of all the events, places, and times.
I have a
Sure.
Just, there was a question about the CEC Resource Fair. That's also directly on the landing page. It's the third box over. Scroll down a little bit.
Thank you for that. And I see it, yes. Okay, and I think we're ready.
Yeah, okay, so we're not going to extend 5 minutes, I guarantee you. So, amending motions is the topic I wanted to talk about as far as Robert's rules this time. So when we have a motion on the floor, right, there's a motion, a question, right, for the assembly that we're going to try to answer. One of the subsidiary motions we can make is amending a motion. And when you amend a motion, you modify the wording of the motion that's currently up for question, right, that's on the floor for consideration. This motion to amend, right, so we have Jose makes a motion, and then Margaret says, we're discussing it, he's talking, and Margaret says, motion to amend, right? Because amongst the discussion, we've come up and said, oh, but wait, we can't do this and that, but we still have a motion on the floor, so we've got to do something with it. And so we can make a motion to amend it, which is what we're trying to do. We want to keep moving it forward so we can discuss and decide on the question, so we amend it, right? It must always be seconded. So if Margaret says, I have a motion to amend the current motion on the floor, someone must second this motion. Not emotion, motion, right? It's Smokey Robinson, right? Right? An amending motion is out of order if another motion is on the floor, right? So you can't have another motion on the floor and you're trying to amend a motion and it's not related to the motion that's on the floor, right? We often see senators who get, oh, and this, I want to amend, and we already voted on it, or it's not the current motion that's on the floor. So if you try to amend any motion that's not currently on the floor, your motion is out of order, right? It requires a majority vote to pass. So say we discuss the amended to the motion that's on the floor and we vote to amend it, we need a majority vote to amend the motion that's currently on the floor. Then we continue debate and vote on the new motion with the amendments that we voted to approve with the majority vote. Follow me? All right, so it must be confined to the pending question, right? I covered that. The amendment may be amended, right? You can amend, you can have a secondary amendment to the primary amendment. And the same stair step follows. We got to talk about it has to be related to the amending, right? We decide on the verbiage we think is good, and somebody goes, oh, but wait, AP whatever says we have to do, okay, so we need to just change this one thing, right? So we got all this stuff sitting on the floor, right? It's standing there with one leg up, right? Trying to balance, right? We gotta be mindful. So we're gonna vote on the change of the wordage to the amendment. Then we will pass that by majority of vote. Now the amendment will take effect to the original motion that was on the floor, and then we can vote on it with all the new changed language. Quite often this happens, and it doesn't quite happen as formal as I'm explaining it, but that is technically what is going on, right? May be reconsidered, right? The amendment may be reconsidered. The only time you're allowed to reconsider is if we pass it, and in the same body of the assembly, right, our same meeting, some new information comes up, and which is so, okay, the gravity of the situation is we missed this, so we can reconsider, right? Because normally you can't reconsider just because, okay, I don't like it now, or I learned something else. It has to be a big enough issue. So if it wasn't discussed the first time, you don't get another bite at the apple. But you may reconsider your amendment if it is of grave consequences if we don't. Your amendment is improper if it rejects the main motion that it seeks to amend. So often people will try to make an amendment to submarine the original motion that they didn't like in the first place, when their remedy is just to vote against it, right? Just vote against it. You get your one vote, vote against it, that's your only remedy in that sense. So you can't amend it because you're trying to submarine it or take it off altogether, right? Continuing. You cannot repeat a question that's already been decided, right? You don't try to get another bite at the apple, right? You cannot come back and we've already decided on this question and your amendment is going to try to tear the Band-Aid off or open that scab and start the discussion again. But you cannot repeat a question that has already been decided via your amendment. So if we have already decided on an issue, it's passed. And then now there's a new motion on the floor that may or may not be related, and then you try to make an amendment to this current motion, right, that's really trying to talk about something we already decided, an issue that's already been done somewhere else. That amendment would be out of order. You cannot change parliamentary procedure through your amendment, right? Like you can't. You can't. I'll entertain.
I'll move to extend.
Oh.
Yeah, I second her.
Okay, so Margaret, for the record, Margaret moves to extend by 5 minutes, and Lyman gives us a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
We gotta calibrate that clock, man, that was pretty fast. Right, so you cannot change parliamentary procedure, right? It seems pretty obvious, but you can't say, well, I'm gonna amend this so that we don't have to vote at all. And now, Mariah's the new president, chair. No, you can't have an amendment that's gonna change the whole process just by way of an amendment. So they would be out of order. You cannot strike out enacting words, like out of your motion, that says, hey, this issue has been resolved, and you want to amend it to take out that it's been resolved. Well, that's the nut and bolts and the essence of the motion, is that we resolve something. So again, it's another way of wording. You cannot try to subvert the motion and what it seeks to do by way of an amendment. And, these aren't typical, these things happen, but sometimes they happen inadvertently. right? And so that's why we have the parliamentarian and the executive board is keeping track of these things, you know, not to be mean or anything, but to make sure that those type of issues don't happen, and take away the things that we all voted for and that we all have a voice for, right? And that's the whole point of these. And finally, your amendment, like your motions, cannot be dilatory or frivolous, right? They cannot make, it can't be frivolous or make the motion it seeks to amend incomprehensible, right? We can't have so many layers and changes on it that, okay, I don't even know what we were originally talking about, right? Like we need to have a committee now to just see all the layers and what we've had, because you keep making motions to try to change and amend, and we don't even really know what we got. We need to get a whiteboard out and start. And then that goes with dilatory motions that are just frivolous, right? They don't serve the purpose for the assembly. They're not within the purview of, say, our academic senate. They're really none of our business. And so those would be out of order as well. And then my final note, I'll add, after subject to your questions, you know, I would just reiterate, the whole point of Robert's rules is so that everyone has a voice, right? The larger group you get together, the harder it is for everyone to be heard, right? So the reason for the rules is to keep an order, an agenda, and so that everybody has a fair opportunity for who they represent. And here we represent our departments. So I just remind always, always again, your personal opinion takes a back seat. You're really here representing your entire division. So if you got 15 people that you represent, your personal opinion is only 1/15 of what you should be projecting here, right? You can't just be, well, I like this, so I'm gonna, if you haven't talked to the other 14 and they're on board with what you're pushing, you're out of order. I mean, and that's hard for us to see. We won't know whether you actually polled the other 14, right? But that is your role as a recommendation, because we can't have every division, we'd have to stand out in the middle of walk and don't walk, you know, to have everybody have a voice and vote. So we are elected, or you guys are, to represent your group. So I just be mindful of that as we go through Robert's rules. Now I'll entertain any questions.
Questions?
All right.
Dang, no questions, no hard questions? No super, I got you.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, parliamentarian, for that update. I'm sure we'll have you back because we'll have more questions. I do like the fact that you stated that, again, Robert's Rules is a guideline. Or did you say that? I thought I heard.
I said that last time. It is a guide. It is not an absolute. We have the autonomy to adapt what works for us and what doesn't. And that's, Robert said it himself. You know, you don't have to, if this doesn't make your needs, you don't have to do it.
Thank you. So we are going to move on to old business, which we have none, so that was easy. Let's move on to new business, and that is, I'm sorry? It's actually going to new business. I'm going to put it last. Actually, I can do it first. So, we did move the nominations and elections. I'm sorry, Sheila and Sharon, I was going to call Nancy first. Oh, okay. I'm going to call Nancy Rutson up for the Nominations and Elections Committee calendar 2023. And I think it's already pulled up in a Word doc. Sure, absolutely. Oh, so somebody, probably Sheila logged you out. You logged her out. Like, not me. Not it.
Guys, take a minute. So I got a funky story. So while we're waiting on them, you know that big giant mural right outside the library with that lady smiling? She's got like a yellow sweater on. Desiree Zuniga, I think is her name.
Yes.
So I've been looking at that for like 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, walking by, going, I wonder who that is. And so the other day I came to support the women's basketball team. I came in to go watch them play. They beat Trade Tech. Ooh, go Lancers. Right, so I'm walking by out of my office down the stairs, and there's a lady walking a dog with her back to me I didn't see. And then as she turned, I immediately recognized him, like, I know you. You're the lady on the big ass wall. She was like, oh, yes, I am. I've been trying to get them to take me down. She was like, I'm in the library, the grocery store. She said she had a student that was an Amazon deliverer.
I'm
Right,
sorry.
the bookstore, not the library.
The bookstore.
I was testing to see.
Can't get anything past librarians.
We have James Bull on our building.
I just thought that was hilarious.
Okay, thank you so much for that, parliamentarian. And now we have Nancy Retzi. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, fellow academic senators. I'm here on behalf as chair of the Nominations and Elections Executive Committee to present the spring 2023 calendar. If you see any mistakes as I'm speaking, could you please let me know so we can amend it, okay? So I'm here to present the calendar, and I need your consent before we move forward after I present all the dates. The nomination form distribution will take place on Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, and it will be emailed to full-time faculty explaining the online nomination process. Only full-time faculty can vote and run for elections. And I had a request that to our committee that they want to know the reassigned time of all the faculty, since we are a public institution. They want to know the exact amount of full-time faculty and their reassigned time. And they also wanted to know how much reassigned time does the executive board get for their positions? And I didn't have the answers to those questions, so.
I can answer that.
Okay.
It's negotiated with the Office of Instruction, and it depends on the board and what's happening during that year. So it's something that's negotiated with Dr. Laura Ramirez's office.
Okay.
Can we ask presenters questions at this time?
Can I present my report? Okay. The next thing, so when Judy was here, the nominations deadline, so Wednesday we take the online nominations, and then February 20th, we verify and validate the nominations. And Judy Benson used to do that. People would come in and turn in the nominations forms. You cannot nominate yourself. A fellow full-time faculty member has to nominate you, and it's usually date stamped by Judy Benson. So in her absence, I don't know who's going to do that, and it cannot be any member of the executive committee, and it cannot be any member of our committee either. It has to be a neutral party. At least that's the precedent in the past. That has been. So Monday, February 20th, I'll be back to take additional nominations from the floor, if there are any last-minute nominations. Platform state deadlines are due March 1st and can be submitted to the Nominations and Elections Committee, to Jared Ashcroft, who's a member of our committee. We will distribute platform statements March 3rd, and the electronic voting begins via Election Buddy March 13th. People will have 2 weeks to vote, well, 10 days, 11 days more or less. The voting deadline will be noon on March 24th, and once our committee has confirmed the votes, we will immediately notify the Senate President, who will call the winners, and faculty will then be notified via email. And the ballot results will be presented to the Academic Senate Board. I have to come back in person and tell you, even though it's been done in email, I have to publicly state it here at the Senate meeting. So 3 questions that our committee had was, we didn't know when the ASCCC spring plenary meeting was for this year. And I put these dates based on last year, but I don't know if you're even still attending. But the election always had to be conducted before this spring plenary. So that's one of the questions we had. The other one was they wanted to know the reassigned time of all the full-time faculty. Because some people who were considering running need to know if they're eligible with their reassigned time, and they want, and since it's a public institution, they want that available, and I can't give it to them because I don't know. And the third thing was, what are we going to do in Judy's absence to confirm the in-person submissions of the nominations? I don't know. Okay, so.
I think I can answer that. We had interviews for Judy Benson's position on Friday. I know second level with Dr. Ramirez are supposed to happen today, and that's it after that. So we should know by tomorrow. I just don't know what the start date is going to be. We'll have to, we can get some, well, we'll work it out.
Okay.
You said by the 20th of February?
Yes, and they also requested that there's a 2-year statute of limitations on each position, and I'm not sure if that's changed.
Here's the thing, that's not something that we can do. That's something that has to be, that's in our bylaws.
Okay.
And our bylaws committee is currently meeting about that. That was what was on the updated bylaws to move each executive position to a 2-year term. As it stands now, it's a 1-year term.
Oh, okay.
We can't just do that by unanimous consent. That has to go through our bylaws committee.
Okay, and who can I refer them to? Who's in charge of the bylaws committee?
John Hanley.
Okay, he's on my committee. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so that's it. If you have any questions. Sheila?
Sheila?
Uh-huh.
I just had a couple things. One was a clarification, and please correct me if
Yes.
I misunderstood.
Uh-huh.
But you said you cannot self-nominate to run?
No.
Okay. Well, I have the bylaws of the Academic Senate up in front of me, and if I can read the language. Candidates seeking office must complete an intent to seek office form, which they may obtain from the Academic Senate office. The form must be completed and submitted to the chairperson of the Nomination and Elections Committee or their designee by the specified deadline. So if those folks did not turn in that form prior to the meeting where the nominees are announced, then at that
Yes.
time nominations shall also be taken from the floor.
You're absolutely right, Sheila.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I've been working here 24 years, so I think previously you had to have someone else nominate you, but maybe the rules were amended, so yes. Anything else?
So just for clarification, you can nominate yourself.
Yes, you fill out an intent to seek office form and turn it in.
So here's the issue, Gina, and who are they going to turn it into? Because it's not to our committee, it's usually Judy or somebody neutral who gets them and date stamps them.
Well, again, we're going to have to work on that for February 20th. Hopefully, the person who got the job will be starting by then. I just am not 100% sure because I haven't talked to Dr. Ramirez today.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So the other thing I'm unclear about is why the Nominations and Elections Committee is looking into faculty reassigned time. It's not mentioned anywhere in the bylaws that reassigned time and the election process have anything to do with each other.
We didn't initiate the question. They came to us to ask the question, and I didn't have the answer, which is why I'm referring it to Dr. Stephanie Fleming.
Okay.
Because they wanted to know, and I said, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So I'm just relaying a question that we received.
Okay, thank you.
Again.
So,
Again,
yes.
reassignment is actually negotiated with the Office of Instruction. Depending on what is happening that year and depending on a number of things, it can be 1% for one president and one for another. It is negotiated with the Office of Instruction. There is no set reassigned time for any of these positions. So I just want to put that out there. And before Melissa, before I call you, Lena had her hand up.
Nancy, the plenary for spring is April 20th to April 23rd, 2023.
Okay, so I don't know if I can physically change this right now. I don't have my computer, but if before you vote, I don't know if we need to eliminate that or change the date to, you said from what to what?
You asked what the statewide plenary dates are,
Right,
correct?
uh-huh.
Those dates are April 20th to
Mhm.
April 23rd.
Would this need to change based on that?
So we can either eliminate that from the calendar, just so you know that the election took place before that. It's just been tradition that we always put it on the calendar, but I didn't know the dates of it. So can we make a verbal amendment on this?
We can when we're there. I thought I had another question.
I'm sorry, April 20th to April 22nd. Thank you, Shirley.
April 20th to April?
April 22nd. I said
Okay.
April 23rd, I'm sorry.
Okay, April 20th to April 22nd. Okay.
Okay, Melissa had her hand up, and
Mhm.
did I see any other hands? Go ahead, Melissa.
Mhm. No, well, the person who asked me was convinced that they were going to get 40% reassigned time, and I said, I don't know. So that's why the question was related. Okay, Melissa?
Yeah, my question is also about reassigned time. I'm not sure why so mysterious or, sensitive about the topic, since it's a public institution and it gets approved by the Board of Trustees, I'm assuming. So I think part of the reason why it's good to know, and I hope you can give this information to us, Nancy, because if people are thinking of running for this position, of running for these elected positions, shouldn't they know what the reassigned time is going to be so that maybe they're interested in doing it? I'm sure there's not, I think the Senate president in the past has had 80%, and so that would be, valuable to have before you decide to run for this. So I guess my question is, maybe not to Nancy because it doesn't seem like you have the
I don't know,
answers,
no.
but may I ask the Senate president, when does that get negotiated? Because if after you've been elected or beforehand, because what if someone gets elected, then that person would have to go and negotiate this behind closed doors with VP Ramirez, and she may or may not decide to give you 50 or 80 or whatever? How does that work?
I can't say how it worked for everyone else. I can tell you how it worked for me.
Yeah.
How it worked for me is I didn't find out I knew what the possibility of what the reassignment could be, but like I said twice already, that different presidents get different reassignments. So I didn't know what mine would be. When I talked to her, it wasn't behind closed doors, not shrouded in mystery. I'm answering the question the best that I can. And when I went to talk to Dr. Ramirez, I actually believe the executives were with me, and we negotiated based on that. It's not something that's under wraps.
So could you tell us what your reassigned time is, Gina? Can the executive board now tell us so we can answer people's questions? What is your reassigned time, Gina?
A reason why I don't want to answer that, I can tell you my reassigned time, but for the record, I don't want to say it for this topic.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. Because what I get as reassignment may be different from the next president coming in. So I don't want to give the impression that, okay, it's this amount of time when it may not be that amount of time for them. But I mean, is that fair or is that not fair?
I guess people want an approximation, so,
Approximately, I can do that.
Okay.
Between 60 and 80% is what's happened over the last several years
And-
for president.
Okay.
For each individual executive seat is a little bit different, and it really depends on the role.
and you, Sheila, can you say?
Let me take a look.
Because they're having legitimate questions, and I don't know,
Yeah, I think it's a point of order. So for me, the motion on the floor is the calendar for the Nominations and Elections Committee. So I feel like it's not within the scope of this point of business to be asking, not that I care, I just want to make sure we're still.
Currently, there is no motion on the floor because there has not been moved to accept or any, so there is no motion on the floor, right? So the point of order is out of order, but your point of information to say that you don't believe it, we can't answer that information if the executive board is saying they can't answer the information, they don't think it's relevant, it's a question we could just take back that we don't have. I would suggest if I'm thinking of running, I can do my due diligence and investigate the position and see if I'm willing to serve the Senate regardless of how much reassigned time. If that's the deciding factor for me, I would do my due diligence before I accepted a nomination.
And how do they, and who do they,
I'm sorry, order.
I'm sorry, but we do need a motion for 5 minutes.
Point of information.
Hold up, we need a motion because we've already extended our 5 minutes. Danielle, I see motion for 5 minutes. Second, Jose, I saw your hand first. Are there any objections to extending this by 5 minutes?
so,
See, hold on. Seeing none, seeing no objections, we can approve this by unanimous consent. I want to be clear. What we're not going to do is get out of order. That's what we're not going to do. Okay? And again, like I was saying, as far as this goes, like our parliamentarian was saying, I would like us to really stick to what the issue is. If anyone wants to know what our reassignment is, please feel free to call me. I have no problem with that. My extension is 7091. I'm located in L Building 103. But I don't want anyone to think that what my reassignment is standard for everyone. Questions? Yes, go ahead.
I know I'm a part-timer, so this doesn't affect me anyway, but it just seems like in the name of transparency, it would be good, like year after year, to have the same amount of reassigned time. And I know maybe that's not something that you guys are in charge of deciding, but it does seem like a legit, if I were full-time and, you know, I would want to know, it just seems transparent. I'd just like to say that.
Yes, Melissa.
Could we put in a request for maybe, would that be something for the bylaws committee to include some standard, you know, because it's not fair if you're not getting, or the next person's not getting the same, could be that VP Ramirez doesn't like you or didn't like, or likes you more, whatever. It's just very undemocratic. And so maybe that's something for the bylaws to put in, a set amount or some criteria.
That's something we can bring before the bylaws committee. My only concern about that is that depending on what's happening in the year, I know I came in when COVID was going out, right? Matt Hennis was in when COVID was coming in. And what the previous president, the reassignment that they need may have been different depending on the situation. So I don't know if I would advocate for one set reassignment time. I think it's something that should stay negotiable. That's just my perspective.
I guess, Gina, the legal question is, what are the terms of the negotiation with the administration? And I think that's what the candidates are asking. When you go to negotiate with these administrators, on what basis are you negotiating? And they don't understand that, and I don't either.
Sheila?
I'm wondering if we're going to make a motion about the calendar.
I can't make a motion. Yes, Susan?
I move that we approve the calendar as stated.
Do I have a second? Second by Sheila. Are there, okay, so objections?
No, discussion.
You were right. I thought we had a discussion, but that's fine. We can continue the discussion. Catherine?
Well, I don't know if it's an objection or what you call it, but it should be amended, right? Because there's something.
Yes.
Right.
So based on the amendment, then, but it also seems that there are some things that other people want included on here. I don't know. So I would vote to not pass it as is because it seems like there's other things that.
Okay, so there's already a motion on the floor, which we just learned. So we can't amend that without another motion?
No, if she's making a motion to amend it, that can happen. She can make a motion to amend it, but it needs to be specific as to what you want to amend, not just, well, I think some people have some questions, or, you know, that's part of the discussion. And if you don't want to approve it, when it comes to a vote, you vote to not approve it. But, so we're still in the discussion or debate phase for the question that's on the floor, whether to approve the calendar.
So Melissa, did you have a hand up? Go ahead.
Yes, I did. I move to amend the motion to include in that document right there a section that is dedicated to reassign time
and let the committee decide and get that information and fill it out.
So Melissa, I disagree because it's outside the.
Sorry, you
no,
can't. That's out of order.
oh, sorry.
That's out of order. Melissa, where do you see that at? What am I missing?
And it's not presently there, but it would be an amendment to include on that table a section of reassigned time or some information on that document about past reassigned time. It could be whatever. I wanted to give the committee the freedom to put it, some kind of mention about it.
So it seems that they've already tried. Oh, we gotta have a motion.
Is that a motion for extension?
I guess it is now.
Second.
I saw Susan with a second. So are there any objections to amending this by unanimous consent? I'm not amending it, I'm sorry, extending it by unanimous consent. Seeing none, we have another 5 minutes. Lyman.
Perhaps what we're getting at here is that there should be a brief mention of historical context as far as reassigned time is concerned, since there isn't anything fixed. I'm sorry, perhaps what we're getting at here is that if that's what people want, a little blurb about the historical, some sort of historical context as to reassigned time. Since it's not a fixed, here's what it has been in the past, tick, 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 and so forth.
Or will be negotiated with the Office of Instruction?
And will be negotiated.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, so we're not out of order. What is the specific amendment that Melissa made? What is your specific?
Well, my amendment was simply to add a box in there about reassigned time.
Okay.
Is
and
there a second?
Is there a second on her motion to amend? Okay, Shannon.
Okay, I already have a second. Do we need to discuss this some more?
Tina, can I say something?
I'm in the middle of a motion, give me just a second. There's more discussion? Okay, I'll start this way. So Carmen, and then I saw Catherine, and then Rebecca, and then Susan.
I just wanted to address that this is a calendar that we're addressing right now. And so I understand some of the discussion we're having now about reassigned time, but the calendar is just to list all the dates and due dates and deadlines. So I'm kind of not understanding where we would add in that information on this. I think the information could be given and provided to everybody, but on the calendar, it's kind of like our academic calendar. It doesn't have all the extra information on it. So I'm kind of not understanding where we would put it and how would be addressed and not add other stuff too.
Okay, next question is from Catherine.
Yes, so I would like to redo my motion to.
We already have a motion.
Oh, no? Okay, so
We have a motion on the floor. We're discussing Melissa's motion
Okay.
to amend the calendar, to put something on the calendar about reassigned time.
Could I then add that the dates, that was my original motion, the dates, because based on the plenary, I believe the dates were off. So that was, I just wanted to mention that if you're
So
going to amend it.
we wouldn't be able to move on that now because we have a motion and an amendment on the floor currently.
Okay, next I had Rebecca.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because we're voting on the calendar, the reassigned time has nothing to do with the dates of the election. So I don't think that's an appropriate amendment for this particular thing.
Okay, Susan?
And I agree, I think it should probably go in the bylaws if we give a range of previous reassigned time. That seems more
Melissa?
appropriate.
I'm sorry, thank you. Melissa?
I agree. I didn't realize that we had other documents. Perhaps I can make an amendment to my amendment to not put it here, but to put it on the actual description of the position, because I believe, because we don't have it in front
We
of
have
us.
to vote on your amendment now.
Well, I just want to clarify. I was thinking I could retract
You
my
can withdraw
amendment.
you can withdraw it.
But I just need a point of information answered from the chair. Will all faculty be getting kind of a list of the duties before we know what the job entails? Because I think we got that in the past. like FA does it as well.
Yeah, I think she covered that, right? And the stuff will go out and.
Right. So, Gina, can I speak now?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't agree with adding the reassigned time to the calendar because it's an impossible question that our committee can't answer. We don't have access to that information. I just brought it to the Senate saying, look, these are what the candidates are contemplating before they submit their intention to run. So I don't want it in here. I'm just bringing it up, Melissa.
No, I'm asking a question to you. Will all faculty be getting a list of the kind of general duties for these job positions, these reassigned positions? Because that's what people should know before they run for these paid positions, or these reassigned time positions.
I think
Will you get that out to all faculty?
I don't think we've ever had, it's not like a hiring position. We just say, because their jobs are so different and dynamic, we can't enumerate everything they do.
All right, okay, so we're getting to be out of order. Melissa, are you withdrawing your motion to add onto the calendar something about reassigned time? Otherwise, we'll put it to a vote.
I will withdraw that motion, yes.
Okay, so what the current motion is to approve the calendar, but I know you wanted to make an amendment, Catherine, but you need to do that now.
Okay, motion to amend the calendar based on the dates being changed based on the plenary because the dates are off.
Okay, do I have a second? Second, I saw Rebecca's hand first. Are there any objections to amending this calendar to add the plenary dates? Are there any objections? Seeing none, that is amended. Now, the current motion on the floor, the current motion on the floor is to approve the calendar with amendments. Okay, all those in favor, please say yay. Yay. Or was it aye? Yay, aye. Okay, anybody? Yeah, sorry. How about stay in uniform? If you don't agree with this, how about an A? Good, I was waiting for somebody. Okay, seeing no objections, this calendar is approved with amendments. Okay, thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion, Nancy.
We don't need Nancy to make.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to move that we refer this to committee to look into this so they can provide it in the future. That's my motion, if anyone wants to second it. The idea of reassigned time, the process, whatever it is, whatever they look at.
I'm lost.
Well, there's no seconds.
Okay, so there's no second, or is there? Was that a second?
No, I had a question.
There's no second, so the amendment, the motion dies.
Sorry, I wasn't clear exactly what it was.
Oh, my motion was to refer to the committee the reassigned time of the to refer to the elections committee to look into and get the information for us because they didn't have it today, but maybe they could provide it the next time and put it out there.
She said she can't.
Okay.
Is there a second?
For the committee to look into.
Is there a second?
That's my motion.
Okay, we got the motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Okay, motion dies.
There's a second.
I have a question.
Oh, mercy. Do we have a second or no?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not exactly clear on what the motion is.
The motion again is for the elections committee to put out there to people what is the reassigned time, and if they need to investigate it or research it, they would do it. They're a committee. They're our committee.
I think a simple range would do, right? Just information saying between 40 and 80 or whatever, just for information. I think that's.
The committee has spoken that they tried that's not what they do. They don't have that information, so.
The chair has, point of information, point of order, the chair has spoken, but she hasn't brought it to the committee. We would decide if we would like the committee to do that. If we don't want that, we vote no. That's it. And they don't do it.
The point of order is not correct. She presented and said they don't have that information.
But my motion is not for them to give it to us now, it's for them to look into it and come back.
I have a question.
Okay, so it's been seconded, so debate.
Yes, Carmen.
So do we have to make a motion to ask somebody a question?
No,
But that's what it seems like we're doing.
there's a motion on the floor, and so
She
we're
wants-
debating it.
She wants the committee to do the research and then report. She wants, I'm thinking you want to formalize it a little more?
Well, because we're not getting information from anywhere else.
Because I guess what I'm asking, just to clarify my question, is can't we just ask that committee the question? Why are we having to motion and vote on it? So it's just like we asked Dr. Ramirez's representative, right, for the numbers. We didn't motion and vote on that.
Because there's a motion on the floor. That's why we
Okay.
have to have this conversation. There was a second. So
Okay.
we can, if someone called a question, we can go ahead and take the vote.
Or is there no more unreadiness?
Yes.
Call the question.
Okay, question has been called, so now we have a vote. Okay, all those in favor of having the election committee research and report out on reassigned time
For the executive.
for the
office
executive
positions.
committee. Let me see a show of hands, please. Those of you who are in favor of that. Okay, those of you who are opposed, please raise your hand. So that the noes have it. Motion dies. Okay, moving forward, BP.
I had a
42.
question before that.
Okay. Is it regarding that?
Yes, but it's just regarding the calendar. When will we receive it? That's all. I think she was going to say that earlier, but people.
I believe once the amendment has been made, then we can send it out, correct?
Yeah, so I used to send it to Judy Benson, she's not here. I don't have the authority to send things out on my own to the academic senate. I'll send it to
To
you,
me,
Gina,
yes.
and then you can send it out.
Thank you.
I'll have it by tomorrow or the next day. I have to talk to my committee and they have to approve the amendment.
Point of information, should it go to the academic senate email just for streamlining processes?
Well,
Or would it
I'll
go
do-
directly to you only?
All I do is send it to Lena, and Lena sends it out through the academic senate email. So it's fine either way. You can send it to me, or you can send it to Lena Hicks.
I'll send it to you.
Sounds good. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
I appreciate it, thank you.
So, Dr. Rose and Dr. Altunji. No, I'm sorry. Hi, Sharon. Our amazing CNI chair. Did I mention that our CNI chair is amazing? Thank you. CNI is tough.
That's the original one. We need the updated one. I sent you the email.
It's okay. And I want to remind the Senate that this is a first read.
I don't see them.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are updating Board Policy 4220, Standards of Scholarship, to new language. The original language was dated from 2010. So we're using a template from the Community College League of California, and we are including a summary of those procedures that are in AP 4220. And those include grading practices, academic record symbols, grade points, grade changes, acceptance of transfer credit, and transcript of record requests. And the explanation of who sets up these procedures, the superintendent president, so that's a standard paragraph that we have in the template, and that these procedures are summarized in our catalog. Are there any questions?
Lyman?
I move that we accept board policy 42.
Thank you, Lyman. I see a second by Tim.
No, that wasn't.
No. Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Oh, my God. A second is going to be Sharice. Okay, now we're open to discussion, yes.
We don't have the document in our board packet, or mine didn't. So I'm hard pressed to vote for it if I'm literally looking at it right now.
Okay, so what you have is what's directly, in the board packet was directly off of the board docs. These are the revisions, and unfortunately I didn't get them at the time. I didn't have the revisions at the time of posting to board docs, but I wanted the senators to know that it was on the agenda and we would be discussing it. But this again is a first read. However, there is a motion on the floor.
Wait, what was the motion?
The motion was to approve this. Did we get a second?
This is a first read.
But if he says a motion on the floor.
Okay, was there a second thing to approve it
I
on
got
the
a
first
second
read?
from Sharice.
Okay, so his unreadiness is that there isn't enough information to vote on it at this point.
Well,
No,
not
he was
the
asking the
information, it's just we haven't had an opportunity to look at the changes made here yet.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Are there any other questions or any other discussion? Melissa?
So it was on the agenda, so just so I understand this right, it's on the agenda, but this document is not on our in our packet?
The board packet actually has BP 4220 as is. It doesn't include the corrections. These are the corrections. The only reason that I am putting it to the Senate right now is because there is a motion on the floor that was seconded. Yes, Lyman?
I had that backwards. I thought what I was looking at was the amended ones. That was what it was being amended from.
So are you withdrawing your?
So I would like to withdraw my vote.
Thank you so much. So there is no motion on the floor. You can please take it back to your constituency groups, have this discussion, and then we will vote on it at our next academic senate meeting. Thank you. Okay, so any questions for Sharon? Yes, so Margaret and then Jose.
Will we get a copy of the?
I can send that out by tomorrow.
So I do want to make one comment. Part of the strike-through information is now presented in AP 4230. So if you're concerned about some of the information that is crossed out, please reference our current AP 4230 that does then make the notation about the faculty member being the person who has the final authority on the assignment of grade. So AP 4230 is the assignment of grades. So that when you're looking at this, you'll know that it is existing somewhere. It's just no longer in this particular AP.
Okay, Jose?
Oh, I have the same question as she did.
Gotcha. Okay, and Carmen, did you have a hand up?
No.
Are there any other questions on this item? Okay, thank you. We'll see you back for a second read. Okay. Okay, the next item is AP, new business, AP 5075, and this also is a first read. And that's going to be presented to us by Drs. Altunji and Rose. Sounds like a law.
Okay. While Miriam is pulling up the changes, the changes were in board docs, so hopefully you've had some time to review them because this is an administrative procedure. It's a lot more elaborate and there were many more changes than there were in the previous board policy. So our subcommittee for the Student Success Committee spent about 3 separate meetings really closely looking at this administrative procedure on course attendance, adds, drops, and withdrawals. We use our guiding questions that provide an equity lens for all of our student-facing policies and procedures. We had some, and we wanted to point out to you that in Board Docs, under the Library tab for Academic Senate, under the feature, the very top thing there is those guiding questions. So if you're interested in looking at them, perhaps adopting some of the language for your own committee work, please do feel free to borrow, customize any of that. So we are going to pull up the changes and kind of go through them one by one. And this is something we'll be voting on at the next meeting, hopefully. So we really want your feedback from your constituency groups. So if you need to take notes or whatever that might look like, please do. Miriam, you were going to start with the first changes, which were really related to
just kind of updating the AP to reflect some of our practices. So we made some updates in regards to face-to-face, hybrid, and online, it references census date. Census date is different depending on the length and duration of your class. It's calculated by doing some math. It's like 0.2 times the number of days that the course meets in the term, and then that's the day of your census. And so we didn't necessarily need to have all this language in here. It's already in Title V to reference, and Banner does this work for you, as well as our amazing scheduling office who put in all of the schedules. When census date hits for a course, that's when we collect apportionment. So that's why that date is important. And I want to clarify, just from our admissions and records colleagues, your census date rosters are not due on the day of census, but the day before. So we're going to clarify that language. They are due the day before, so they were due on the 22nd, not the 23rd for 16-week courses. I'm working on the messaging that goes out, so that's a little bit clearer. So apologies for that. So that's our census date stuff. And then for number 4, again, just kind of aligning with our schedule of classes used to be paper, and now it's online, and the old AP did not have that language reflected. So we really want to reference the online schedule of classes because we don't print one out anymore.
Okay. So I wanted to point out that we have students on this working group as well. We have 2 currently, one appointed by the Associated Students, thank you, and one who is from one of our student advisory groups, the Black Council. And in conjunction with them and the rest of the committee, we revised the language that said that each instructor is required to drop all students who fail to attend the first meeting, to instructors may drop a student who does not attend the first meeting if the student has not made prior arrangements. And we do not have, in the current version, the language about instructors may drop students who arrive late at the first meeting. So we would, under this new procedure, students would have to miss the entire first session of the class without prior arrangement in order to be dropped, and they don't have to be dropped at that first meeting. Okay? So that was the first significant change. We clarified the terminology of non-participants to who, in their judgment, are inactive. Okay, so that means that they have not done that first check-in assignment, right, or attended the class, depending on whether it's online, face-to-face, or hybrid. This is probably the most significant change, and this is really where we're going to need your feedback from your constituents. So in the previous language, instructors may consider 3 tardies the equivalent of 1 absence. Nowhere is tardy defined. So we're, according to Education Code Title V, we are supposed to drop students if they miss 11% of a course. In a 16-week course, that tends to be 2 weeks of instruction. So you can imagine if a student was 1 minute late 3 times, that could be counted in the previous procedure as an absence. So in a class that met only once a week, a student could have a total of 6 minutes of tardies and be dropped from the class for absences. So we had a really robust discussion about what should constitute an absence. The faculty, probably me, suggested that 1/3 of a class would be an absence. The students countered with missing half of a class would count as an absence. So this is something that we really need input from the Senate before this moves through other governance bodies, okay? Of course, we understand that for some of our certificate programs that have outside accrediting, perhaps nursing, dental, right, electrical, automotive, I'm not sure what those might be, they may have additional requirements.
Okay, I need a motion to extend by 5 minutes. Jeff Hupp, motion to extend by 5 minutes, second by Sal. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Seeing none, we can, you have another 5 minutes.
Thank you. So this would not supersede any requirements for attendance that any external accrediting agencies for those programs have. And then again, just updating for modern language, no one's registering on the first floor of the C building by telephone, right, in 2023. So everything going online. Bless you. Okay.
And then the final drop deadline, we adjusted it for the 12th week just to align with our calendar. And again, schedule of classes, we're really pointing folks to the schedule of classes because it does list the important dates of each and every single CRN as it pertains to that particular CRN. So it's really hard to spell out a global guideline in an AP when we have courses that are 16, 15, 12, 8, 7, 2 weeks long. So instead of trying to list all of those out, we really wanted it to be really clear for your course what that final date. So this is just for 16 weeks.
So will you take questions before you finish? Is that okay?
We're almost done.
Gotcha, they're gonna take it after. Okay. I'll call you first.
This will be stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, so there are some strikeouts here and referencing, because the language was in other APs. And so if the standards of conduct AP language stays here and the standards of conduct gets changed in its AP, we'd have to come back with this one and change the language. And it doesn't really belong in here. And same with the auditing of classes. The auditing of classes has its own AP. And so we're just referencing that out. And then the other thing is this number 16 is concurrent enrollment. It doesn't mean students who are currently in high school taking classes in this context. This means we've had this happen a number of times where a student perhaps is in Math 5A, 16 week, drops it, wants to re-add it as a late 8-week course. They can't do it, it's the same semester. So that's what concurrency of enrollment. Same with English 1A. If I take an English 1A class in the first 8 weeks and don't do well or drop it, I cannot register for it in the same term. Legit. We don't do that. Yeah, it gets denied. We can't do it. We're not allowed to. It double dips with our apportionment calculation. So,
okay, I think we're ready for questions.
Okay, I have Shannon first, and then I'll go Melissa, and then Carmen.
Just a suggestion, when it mentions that you can check the schedule to get the information, I thought if you just add a little phrase there, like by clicking the CRN of the course, because it takes you to another window with a lot more information. So if people aren't familiar that they should do that, they might be like, where's the census data? I can't find it.
Can I comment on that though?
Okay.
Our schedule of classes is really ugly.
It is, yeah.
It's no offense to anyone that I know that created it here. It came with Banner, so we may change that. And so if we get that granular, I'm afraid that if we do that, then we'd have to come back with this whole thing to change that phrase. So if at least we can get them closer, get students closer and faculty closer to it. I just worry about putting it that granularly, because maybe it won't be clicking on the CRN. It might be something different, like a drop down or something like that.
I hope we do get it changed.
Yes, we're working on it. We're working on it.
I do want to make a plug for the e-syllabus in Canvas because all of these dates are automatically loaded into them. So if you're using that feature in Canvas, it's a much more like user-friendly way for students to see all those dates and for you to see all those dates.
But thank you for your
Yes.
suggestions. Yeah.
Next, we have Melissa.
I was wondering, I was looking through here, is this the same, is there different language for non-credit, or is there a non-credit policy, or is there language in there about non-credit? Because I didn't see it.
With non-credit, it's positive attendance is the way that the apportionment goes for non-credit, and it's open entry, open exit, so there's really not, you guys don't have drop rosters and things like that that the credit faculty have to do, so it's very different.
And then one comment about the e-syllabus. I've been using that and it's been helpful but I've also communicated with Christina. It doesn't have space for faculty name anymore.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
And the dates don't correlate for the non-credit, just an FYI. It's still kind of old school for just in campus. Thanks.
I need a motion to extend by 5. This is our last extension.
Motion to extend.
Okay, I have Rebecca, who would have a second. Carmen as a second. Are there any objections to extending this item by 5 minutes? Seeing none, you have 5 more minutes. And the next person was Carmen.
I just had one question and one comment. So on the section we're at right now, where it says the schedule of classes, I just suggest adding in the current schedule of classes, because some students compare like the previous sections, deadlines, and stuff like that, and they're like, I can wait 3 weeks, why I gotta do it, you know? So anyway, just thinking, just adding that little small part just helps.
Thank
And
you.
then my question was just, you know how we're gonna take out the parts that have other APs and BPs? Are we gonna list, like how you guys?
We'll
did it?
reference it.
Yes, that's what I wanna make
So
sure.
it's not crossed out, it's added as a reference to those APs.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, are there any other questions? Yes, Rebecca?
So with the stuff about tardies and, missing half a class or third of class, I know there are some classes where professors lock the door the second the class starts. Could a student use this policy to say, you can't lock me out of class, you have to let me come?
I think so.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, remember this is a first read. This will come back to us for the next Senate meeting, and thank you so much for presenting that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all your questions.
Okay, so we are at our consent items. I am going to ask for a motion to approve the subcommittees and the standing committees as a block. I'm looking for that motion. Yes, Catherine, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Catherine, do I have a second? Thank you, Ling. I'll take Ling as a second. Are there any objections to approving this as a block? Okay, so that's one motion, that's approved. Now, when we approve them as a block, do we still need to approve them?
Yes.
I think so, right? We approved, okay, so we did a motion. I need a motion to approve that block. Is there a motion to approve the block? I saw Susan's hands first. Second, I saw Shannon. Are there any objections to approving the block for the committees? No objections? Awesome. They are approved. Okay. Moving forward, we have nothing for hiring committees right now. I don't understand that. Are there any proposed items for future agenda? Melissa.
Just wanted to hear how it's going in terms of getting the information session from RAVE or safety, all that.
Okay, thank you. I will follow up with that.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other? Yes.
Emily Fernandez was in contact with me. She wants to be put on the agenda for her STARS survey.
Can you ask her to email me too with whatever she's passing out?
She has.
Okay.
Oh, with whatever she's passing out?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other proposed future agenda items? And I do want to say this is a proposal. It's going to depend on what all is there. Dr. Dean.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Just to offer forward, I know in the past we talked about it, and I don't know how this goes, but as we work on language moving forward, like academic freedom, to how do we get the committee, like either book critical race theory and things like that, how do we discuss that so we have terms to reference to? I talk about it in my classroom and education, and I want to bring that forward for like all of us, or am I saying that right? How do we all get some kind of reference? That way when it comes up in the future, we all have something to go to say this is the foundation and move or proceed forward.
What we have been talking about in the executive committee is buying critical race theory for the senators, and then starting a reading circle or a discussion group. But we already have a book that we need to have that circle for, and that's the third university. I know how to speak, I really do. The third university is possible. So we want to start that group first, and then once we figure out how to make it work, we probably will introduce, I know that's a lot of vagueness, but we'll try and introduce critical race theory as well. Okay? So we will keep you all posted on that. Just out of curiosity, who would be interested in reading critical race theory? That's what I was hoping. Okay, awesome. Okay, great. Are there any announcements?
An announcement.
Yes.
The Success Center Hub in D300 is going to host an all-day open house on Thursday, February 16th for students and or faculty with cookies and coffee. They're hoping to increase traffic. That's where the majority of tutoring for the campus happens, outside of the Writing Center and the Math Success Center and the STEM Center. We have so many centers, but the Success Center Hub in D300. They also wanted to invite any adjunct faculty who would like to have their office hours in that space. You are very welcome. They have Keurig for coffee. It's a very beautiful new furniture. So again, the third floor of the D building.
What's the date again?
It's Thursday, February 16th. From 9 in the morning till 8 at night. So students can stop by anytime, faculty can stop by anytime to check out the newly remodeled space.
We don't have to be adjunct to get a cup of coffee, right?
No.
Okay, Melissa?
In case your students are having issues with language skills, English language skills, there are ESL workshops. We offer ESL workshops on the following topics, including conversation circles to improve language skills. Come visit C341, conversation, verb tense, advanced sentence structure, etc. This is in conjunction with the credit ESL department.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other announcements? Yes, go ahead.
Is it too late to order the Third University's possible book? Because I didn't request for it at the beginning of the...
It is not too late. What will happen is we've stopped, we didn't already ordered a bulk. What you can do is order it and we'll reimburse you. Okay, and no, we'll reimburse you, and I'll send it at that. Okay, yes, Melissa.
Quick comment about the Third University. I started reading it. I would really love like a book club or something to go through it, because it's super specific. Like it mentions things that don't have reference or whatever. So I would love to go through it with people.
And we're trying to set that up, and I think we already voted that Sheila was going to lead that group with Lindsay. Sheila volunteered you that you. Yes, so we will be having a reading circle, Melissa. I'll keep the host sitting up top of that. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. I love this. Okay, so I don't even know who I saw first. One more time? Okay, Shannon, motion to adjourn, and a second by Jeff Huff. If there are no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you for this meeting. Have a great evening.